Thank you very much for staying with us. Welcome back. South African Airways may be coming to the end of the road very soon. The embattled airline may have no return in sight, but a new airline could be on the way. The National Transport Movement says a decision to shut down SAA and form a new airline was reached yesterday. It says the meeting was held with the Public Enterprise Minister. In terms of the agreement, government will source 2.2 billion rand for funding for severance packages, and the decision will result in the termination of all SAA employees' contracts. However, the current SAA staff will be given preference for employment in the new airline, according to NTM. And meanwhile, the National Union of Metal Workers and the South African Cabin Crew Association say that they will not be drawn on the statement made by the NTM. However, the unions confirmed that negotiations with government on the future of SAA were progressing. All right, NUMSA spokesperson Phakamile Hlubi-Majola, together with Zazi Nsibanyoni-Mugambi of South African Cabin Crew Association, will be joining us to talk about the meeting that was held between the unions together with government. Thank you very much for coming through.
You're welcome.
All right. So what came out of the meetings that you had with government in terms of whether or not to restructure or liquidate SAA?
I think the meeting with government was basically a meeting of minds and different Labour parties in order to see what a restructured airline would look like. And we're basically putting together various ideas as to how we're going to come out on the other end of this particular process with the minister. It was a good meeting, and I think we're grappling with, in the next 48 hours, well, less than that now, with building a plan that will see SAA survive in a new restructured form.
Well, actually, I'm so amazed to see you come like this, because you guys have been so combative when we talk about SAA, especially when we discuss the issue of business rescue. How did this whole development calm the waters on your side?
Well, look, we still feel exactly the same about the business rescue practitioners. They have dismally failed in their duty to provide a business rescue plan. And now we have to do that work for them. We still also feel like with this new collective agreement, they are putting fear into our members and intimidating them with a threat of a liquidation in order for them to sign it. As SACCA NUMSA, we don't buy into what the BRPs have done up until now. They've had 4 months and they've done absolutely nothing. And we're not combative. We're just working hard in order to find a solution to see SAA survive on the other end. Obviously, in a restructured way, with a fit-for-purpose management, with a fit-for-purpose board, and obviously looking at various issues about maintenance, fuel, leasing costs, etc. And just to add, we also feel that South African Express should also be incorporated, because as we go into this new sort of restructured airline post-COVID, we're going to see passenger numbers going down. So we can then use different gauges. We can use a smaller aircraft when the numbers are less, and use a bigger aircraft when we have more numbers in terms of SAA. So I think we are exploring all avenues, and also not ruling out the role of an equity partner. But we're still working, and I think it's premature for NTM to have put such a statement out. We don't know what meeting they were in. The meeting that we were in as SACCA NUMSA and the pilots is a very different meeting to NTM's.
Right, so let me welcome Phakamile Hlubi-Majola, who is the national spokesperson of NUMSA. Well, Phakamile, the government has refused to give the business rescue practitioners 10 billion rand. So is it clear on the cost implications of this restructuring process? Because earlier you were saying that this is not business rescue, and you actually have not seen any business plan to rescue SAA. So then, moving forward, where will the money come from?
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your viewers. I think the way that Zazi articulated it is absolutely correct. As SACCA and NUMSA, we have said that what we need is we have expressed in our deliberations with government that this restructured South African Airways would be a South African Airways where government would be involved, but also we've not ruled out the involvement of an equity partner. And because at the end of the day, there is a real need to have an airline like South African Airways. It plays a major role in our aviation industry. And as we are going into this period where we have had this massive impact of the coronavirus, I mean, you yourself know the devastating impact that the coronavirus has had on the global supply chain all over the world. So there is definitely a role for South African Airways and SA Express to play, certainly in terms of cargo. We're seeing this at Ethiopian Airlines. We're seeing other countries doing what's necessary to save the aviation industry, because at the end of the day, what is really crucial here is that our economy needs to grow, is that we need to do everything in our power to protect each and every single job. It would just be irresponsible and reckless, quite frankly, to do anything less than that, given the current socioeconomic circumstances facing us as a country.
So is there a plan to deal with the retention of staff? Because when you're talking about restructuring, you could be also referring to right sizing and to put in place the fundamentals that would accommodate both the workers and the process. But then if the two don't feed, then one has to go.
Well,
I don't think
you're
it's
right.
Okay, Zazi, I'll come back to you. Phakamile, please proceed.
I think what I wanted to say is that for us, our goal is always about retaining as many jobs as possible. And we've made that very clear in our deliberations with government, that we want to try and maintain as many employees as is possible. So in other words, regardless of the form that SAA takes, we want to make sure that as many employees are absorbed as possible. Where that is not possible, we have spoken, for example, about how some employees could be sort of spread through some of the other SOCs. But at the bottom line here is this, is that government should have an attitude towards ensuring that each and every job is saved. Because at the end of the day, if we don't have that as our core focus, we're going to actually worsen the conditions for all of us in this country. We have a duty to do everything in our power to make sure that we take care of all our citizens during this very, very disruptive time caused by this virus.
So, Zazi, going forward, what will the role of the business rescue practitioners be? And of course, for those who are involved, it means like, you know, our perception from the outside, inside view has been that there has been an adversarial relationship between yourselves and the practitioners.
I think, you know, for 4 months, the business rescue practitioners have done nothing in our view. And right now, we are doing the work that the business rescue practitioners are meant to have done. So I think the business rescue practitioners right now must just sit back, have a cup of coffee, and collect as much fees as they can while we do the hard work for them.
Well, I mean, like, there have been arguments that the unions are actually interfering too much. They must take a back seat and let the whole process to unfold. Zazi?
No, I mean, the Companies Act is clear. Yeah, the Companies Act is clear. The Companies Act says you must engage stakeholders. This includes unions. You can't exclude us out of the process, and then we come out on the other end and you haven't even provided any basic plan. So then what have you been doing? And this is not interference, this is legislated. And they have a duty to include us. They've got a duty to meaningfully consult with us, and they've failed to do so.
All right, Phakamile, I'd like to have your comment before we go.
No, I mean, I think those who say that are people who clearly don't take the role of workers seriously. These are people who don't actually recognize the contribution of the working class in building our industries. The very fact is that as we sit today, we are 4 months into the business rescue practitioners. They haven't delivered a thing. There's nothing that they've delivered in terms of what they should have done as far as their mandate. It's been unions, NUMSA and SACCA specifically, who've been driving and pushing and fighting and trying to ensure that the necessary changes are made. If we had not gotten involved at SAA, workers would have suffered hugely. The situation would be far worse than what it is today.
All right,
we have actually...
Okay, just to conclude, Phakamile, just to conclude now, every underlying word in your comments, ever since we had a discussion about saving SAA, has always been about those who are interested in restructuring, have an agenda. Do we know who these people are and what is their agenda exactly?
We say that those who want to liquidate have an agenda. And we say, and we've been very upfront, that we believe that Siviwe Dongwana, the BRP, has an agenda, and that he's working together with the HOD at SAA, Mr. Lawrence, who has been nothing but a thorn in the side of employees at SAA. He's been an obstacle in rooting out corruption. He's been an obstacle in good management. And as far as we're concerned, the BRPs are actually helping to do the dirty work of the management that collapsed this airline. As unions, we are fighting to do the work that should have been done even before we came under business rescue. Because at the end of the day, our mandate has always been about saving jobs and about turning around this airline and making it the pride of our nation once again. And this remains our duty even today.
All right, ladies, thank you very much for making time to speak to us. We have NUMSA spokesperson Phakamile Hlubi-Majola together with Zazi Nsibanyoni-Mugambi of the South African Cabin Crew Association.